When is my period? I'm going to be ovulating soon. Yeah, I know because I get like oily. I never get oily. I'm just dry. Well, that's how like your hormones just make you drier.
Yeah, I got a week. Maybe that's why I'm a bit on edge.
No, if it's a week before your period, that means you're ovulating a week before your period. So you're ovulating, so hormones will be everywhere.
Hormones are everywhere.
That's when I started getting PMS.
We're just re-energizing because this episode is a bit spicy. We've had a little bit of chocolate. I've got a beverage on hand because this episode is all about the wild tenant stories that we've had over the years. So, welcome to Honest Property Sisters. I'm Becky, this is Ruth. We are sisters in business and we invest in property together and we're steadily growing our portfolio. And this podcast is
all about our experience with managing tenants.
Yes, and the crazy experiences that they've put us through. Now, don't get us wrong. We love the majority of our tenants.
Oh, yeah.
If it wasn't for them, we've had really sweet tenants.
They've given us gifts and...
Yeah.
And have said that we have been great landlords. And that's such a... what do you call?
It means a lot to know that somebody is like loves the home that you've made.
And they've treated
the
it
house
as
that
a
they've
home.
made and they've turned it into a home and they see that the house that you've worked hard to get is like a place that they take care of and that they look after and they like it's a mutual respect thing and we give them Christmas presents, they give us Christmas presents. We're quite laid back and sort of animal loving landlords, so we've
allowed pets and sometimes
you've had shared houses where some tenants have moved in for the first time, having just relocated to the UK, and they feel comfortable enough to ask us, do you mind if my whole family comes and lives at the house too? And we're like, yeah, like even better, because to be honest, they're more likely to stay as long-term tenants. And then when they left, they were like really, really sweet and grateful, because we wanted to serve them as best we could. If they're great tenants, then it's like a reciprocity, isn't it? It's just energy that is like energy doesn't lie, does it? So if you give, you get what you give, and you can attract like really good people. And but then again, sometimes life throws you a curveball and you can attract very interesting kinds of people.
Or you have tenants that detract some other tenants.
Yeah. Yes. So we used to manage our own properties, and you do have to do a reference checking process. I don't know if you rent yourself. You might be familiar with, you need to go through a vetting process for your landlord or the agency to verify whether or not you can afford the rent.
There's only so much vetting that you can do.
So the reference check is limited to affordability of rent. And you can get a reference check from the previous landlord, but what use is that if the last landlord wasn't having a good time with that tenant, would rather that they'd moved on to another property? So that's not really a reliable assessment of whether a tenant was actually a good experience or not. So I'm going to start with the story of a tenant we had who was a witch.
She was lovely. Like, she really was lovely.
When we first met her, she was, really sweet. She was a nurse who worked at the local hospital. Our property was in a really convenient location for her to be able to go to work. She was a lover of animals that we could see.
Tick, tick, tick.
As one of the other tenants had some cats in the property. And she could afford the rent. And then she moved in, and not long after
it was like 7 months
in. Actually, no, it was like 7 months in or something.
Yeah.
We didn't see it coming, but we were getting messages from another concerned tenant, basically.
Who was one of our best tenants who'd been there for ages.
She was saying that she had to help the witch go to hospital, and this had happened a few times.
We had no idea. None of our tenants told us.
No. So her behavior was really out of sorts. I don't know if she was going, I mean, I imagine she was going through something personally. But she was acting really inappropriately
with the other tenants.
She would go into other tenants' rooms.
She would let herself into other tenants' rooms, and would use a knife and scratch the walls. And she would put piles of salt underneath their pillows.
And the other tenants would be like, "Why the hell is there a load of salt? A mound of salt?
Why didn't you? Why is no one telling us?"
It was bizarre.
Yeah.
But one tenant was like, "This behavior is really strange." I believe that the witch, let's call her the witch, was taking some sort of drugs. Am I allowed to say drugs?
Yeah. I mean, she was.
Is there another word?
She's taking drugs.
I don't have to make that PG or like internet friendly. But she was taking some sort of substance that was making her out of sorts and ending up needing she needed assistance to go to the hospital.
Yeah. This was our first experience with having to evict a tenant, and you have to do it in a really compassionate way, because she obviously needed help.
Yeah, there was some sort of instability there, and we had to be sensitive. And when we looked her up on Facebook, because I think it's social media sort of sends you recommended people according to your contacts list, and we found she just appeared, and it was very clear that she thought she was a witch and had some very disturbing images of her on her profile picture. It was quite bloody and very dark.
Very dark, yeah,
with knives.
A lot of knives.
Very unsettling images.
She likes multiple knives.
So we had to go to the property and sit her down and basically say we are concerned.
It was quite terrifying, because we were a lot younger than her.
We were terrifying, and just considering the images that,
and also from a background from being Asian, you respect your elders, and she was older than us, and we didn't know how to. There was a learning curve in itself. We did not know how to.
Unless she had to leave.
Yeah.
You have to go, you're scaring everyone.
We did it as compassionately as we could, because we knew that at the end of the day, she needed her family.
Her room smelled really bad. And it's just awkward to have to say to a tenant who's going through things to be like, look, your room, like, we're going to have to keep your deposit because we need to like fumigate your room. It stank of pee. I think we did though, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
We were like, and she was accepting of it, but it was very amicable. We were very concerned. We just sat her down, so we're concerned about your welfare.
That the
other tenants are like having to take you to the hospital, and she was understanding, fortunately.
Yeah,
and
it could have gone either way. We had no idea how it would go. No. Luckily, she understood that she needed to seek help or stay with people that knew her really well. But that was quite terrible.
That was quite an experience.
I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty terrified of what the outcome would be.
That's why we both had to go in there and be like, "Hello, witch. Please, can you leave? please. I wish you the best." Yeah, that was pretty nerve-wracking. What's another? Oh, so the next story. Again, we were self-managing. You can see why we were really put off of it. So we had a couple of rooms available in one of our HMOs, and I had an agency call say, I've got a couple of guys coming in from abroad, and they've got new jobs in the UK, in Bristol, and they're looking for accommodation. Could the agency basically pay for them to live? Could the agency hook us up with the guys so that they could live there? They obviously cleared reference checking, because the company that they were working for said that they were going to be able to pay the rent. They were acting as the UK-based guarantor, and it was all fine. So the guys were meant to come and move in over a weekend. Then I got they obviously have my number as the source of contact for managing the property, and I got a call from them. Bless them. had like no idea of what the situation was. As far as I was concerned, it was an agency who were helping these guys relocate to Bristol, and they'd got a new job at a company here, and they had like zero support from the person who
Was supposed to be the middle person.
was meant to be the middle person. And I got a missed call. Well, I got a call from them saying, we've just arrived at Bristol coach station. How do we get to the property? And I was like,
What?
taxi? Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that I was going to have to
Be the taxi.
support them. Yeah, be the taxi and like provide for them at this level.
Which you've never done before.
No.
By the way, I was on holiday, having a lovely time.
Thanks. Back at home, trying to manage the situation by myself. Like, what the hell's going on? So these two guys, I felt for them. I felt really bad because they just arrived and they were genuinely very lost. So I said, okay, I just wanted them to move in, really, to get on with my day and so that they weren't lost. So I picked them up, took them to the house, gave them the key. The contracts were already pre-signed, and said, okay, cool, happy moving in day. And then a couple of hours later, they were like, we don't have any pillows or bedding. And I was like...
It wasn't in the description.
It wasn't... is something that we provided because
people brought their own
bedding. And these guys were, I felt really awful. I think it was a Sunday actually, and all the shops were shut. So I was like, well, they can't get any bedding at this time on a Sunday. So I rummaged in the house, and mum had actually, like, our mum, bless her, had spare bedding and gave them to us to give to the guys so that they had at least something comfortable to sleep on that evening. But it was just so much extra unanticipated work. And then later on in the week, I was trying to get hold of the agency this whole time, being like, these guys are stranded. These guys need your support, your assistance, because the agency that contacted me is UK based. So I assumed wrongly, clearly, even though it was in the description of their service, that they would be there for the guys if they had any questions. But that was the moment that I got ghosted. So the lady from that agency, it was just weird because she was very persistent with trying to secure a room for the guys within the week. And then as soon as they got there, not a peep. And
she did a job, tick.
Yeah. But then the guys felt that they were stranded and were disappointed with the level of support that they were being given, and weren't happy with living there anymore because I think they probably just felt, just alone.
They weren't even there for very long, were they?
3 days. They smoked. Not great. Naughty. I don't think...
There's no smoking in the houses.
And they cooked some very oily food and left
blocked the drain,
left a big tub of solidified fat in a
bottle in the garden.
Yeah. And the other tenants were like, what the hell? We were like, I don't know. That they only stayed for 3 days and then left the country because it just obviously wasn't working out for them. But that was a roller coaster. Even if so, I think the lesson learned is that even if a company contacts you, they could be really responsive at the beginning until they get what they want and then just disappear.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to verify through every means possible if you are having any sort of agency or supported living association contact you, that they are actually supporting the tenant, or get management. So then the management could have probably handled the situation a lot better than I did, but my heart was speaking. My heart was there for the guys,
And this is well before we got management, so
yeah, and I wasn't prepared to leave them stranded. Unfortunately, it costed me the whole weekend and like 3 days of chasing somebody who ghosted us. So that was an experience.
And another experience, this would it count as like guests because they're not tenants?
Oh yeah, go on, share. What's the guest one?
The guest one is when just with service accommodation, and we did actually have management, and they were our first management with service accommodation, and they left guests outside. Or no, it was dirty. Like they left guests outside and having to go and like make sure that we would get the keys to the guests, and even your partner had to go down and give keys. And it was just a lack of communication that this management weren't even in the same city
anymore.
They didn't know that they'd left, and they left tenants ringing. Guests ringing our phone number, and so we were managing instead of our actual management. We were paying. With frantic guests, unhappy.
I was worried because this flat that we have is right in the city centre, but it was at a time of day when, you know, people
are
drunk and going out, and it can be a bit intimidating. And it was like a group of women,
and they were not from the area.
Women not from the area who were a little bit concerned about their welfare and well-being, because it was just approaching that time of night where it can get a little bit crazy in the city centre.
Yeah, and our management were being really unresponsive.
Yeah, and we ended up having to sort that out. That wasn't pleasant.
No, that wasn't pleasant.
We also had a ghost in one of the properties, and the tenant told us all about it. So we had an HMO who we had an HMO that we got on probate, and the reason it was on probate because the previous homeowner died in the property, and we had finished refurbishing. Okay, yeah, that was the first sign. We were like, the property was refurbished. We used to provide our HMOs with beds,
wardrobes, etc.
So it was ready. Like you just chuck your clothes in there and like bedding on the bed, and you're good to go.
And when we were setting these properties up, this property in particular, it would be after our working day, and we'd be there until the evening
putting these beds together. And it was eerie, and like, you know, mother's intuition. Our mum was like calling us being like, guys, I think you need to leave.
It was like 9:00 at night.
She was like, something feels wrong, and we were like, it does. But we need to finish putting these beds together. So we were putting these beds together, and we were like, I think we got a vibe. We were like, we need to leave, because the air, like, it felt creepy. And then finally the property was fully ready, and our very first tenant moved in, and he was like, you know, something really weird happened at the property. And we were like, what? And he goes, I went to the bathroom, and my shampoo that was in the bathroom, and I just finished using it. It was like a full like bottle of shampoo, and it was in the bin.
By the way, he was the first tenant that moved into the property. There was no one else there.
No one else there.
I believe.
and then he was like, and then on a different night, I went back into the bathroom, and there was a perfectly square cut piece of carpet placed on the toilet seat.
And not just that, he was hearing noises, wasn't he?
He was hearing noises at night. Freak. And he didn't know it was a probate house. And we were like,
and he joked and was like, did someone die here?
We were like, yes, they did. But then I think another tenant moved in, and they were having similar experiences, but it was only until the house was full that the ghost activity had calmed down.
Yeah. Maybe like he felt pushed out.
I feel like the ghost was like, fine, I'm outnumbered. And so like went away. But yeah. Crazy.
Don't know if
couldn't
you
even
believe
make
in
that
spirits. Oh, we have a guest story of when we don't know if it was like Comic-Con or something.
Oh.
But we had our management send us a picture and go, oh, the cleaners of just wondering what
Are these your interior decorating figurines?
Yeah.
And
they
we were
took
like, what
pictures.
do you mean? We did not expect these pictures. So
They were like
were
anime,
really sexy anime,
super sexy anime
figurines.
figurines, but like huge.
and several
Yeah.
of them, just like naked busty figurines
Did not fit
in
the
the
aesthetic.
property. And we were like, guys, please don't keep that in the property. Can you please remove it? And they were like, oh no, the cleaners thought they were yours. And a guest is checking in today. And I was like, whoa, I didn't want to cost us a weird review. So it was
And
an
the cleaner's already
emergency.
been.
They weren't going to go back. So were you with me?
I don't know. I think you would like going to a dance class or something. So you
I
ran
ran down. I was like, I can't have those stay there. Because they were really like
Raunchy
raunchy looking figurines. Very seductive plastic
I mean, I
figurines.
guess it makes a unique stay.
It's not the look we were going for. So I ran down and got these sexy figurines, forgot about a bag. So I was just carrying these like basically naked busty dolls through the city centre to like try and hide them before the guests checked in. And then they were just in my car. But I reckon there was like a Comic-Con or some sort of event like that happening nearby, and these people were visiting, the guests previous were visiting it, and maybe forgot their memorabilia. I can't remember if the management agency reached out to them asking if those figurines belonged to them, but I don't think they didn't respond to claim them. So
Lucky us.
Lucky us who were stuck with these sexy figurines. How do you dispose of that? Do you just put, like, do you list it on Facebook Marketplace for somebody to take them? I wasn't really prepared to do that. And plus, I don't know if I would be able, like, it might be deemed as too explicit to list online on a public forum. So I don't know what was the fate of those figurines.
I think they just
could
sat
have
in our office.
with like confusion. They probably ended in the bin, to be honest. But yeah, that was interesting.
Remember that guy that like refused to pay rent until like he'd got the keys?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So there was this one tenant, and I was going through a hormonal roller coaster with my PMS, to be honest. And I was really done. I was at my wit's end with management at this point.
Yeah,
At
he
this
was
stage
so
of my journey,
rude.
he was extremely rude.
Trying to be really you better be really nice to him, and he was just being rude and demanding, and was refusing to pay rent or a deposit before he even got the keys in his hand and was like let into the house. And we were like, that's not how it works.
But I think this was a situation. So basically, there is a setup now whereby if a tenant wants to reserve a property and has intentions to move in, the landlord can request a holding deposit, which is non-refundable. So that means that the landlord isn't messed around if that person last minute decides to not move in, because that's a waste of time for the landlord, isn't it? And I think it's something like, I can't remember, the rules might have changed now, but I think it was like 10% of
At the time,
10% of the rent
different.
or something, or half. I can't remember. But this thing didn't exist at the time, and this guy had every intention of moving into the property. But he, like, what I sent him a message basically saying, like, you're going to need to send the deposit and the first month's rent prior to your moving in day, so that I can settle that before handing you the key.
Yeah, and make sure that his deposit was put in a protection scheme.
And he was like, no, I will pay you when you get there, and just sort of compromising our terms.
And changing his time of when he was going to come to the he was like really inconsiderate.
Really rude. And I thought I was being fair and sort of not difficult. And those were my terms at the beginning. He could have said, I don't agree with those terms, a lot sooner than on the day.
And it's one of those,
moving in.
it's one of those things where like it was such a gut wrenching gut-wrenching experience, is that the right word? It was one of those experiences like where you could feel all the way to the lead up that this wasn't right and we shouldn't have continued or even meet this person at the property. But why did we?
Because we thought he was genuinely going to move in and thought he was just delaying responding. And
I guess he was like the first person as well experiencing that type of personality.
Difficult personality, yeah. Very strange behaviour. Right, very aggressive.
Very aggressive, yeah. And he didn't talk very nicely to do to us.
No, but I think that was a learning curve where we had to trust our instinct and our gut and be like, look, I mean, it wasn't a clear reason yet to say no to somebody. It was really a gut feeling and how we were being treated, which was really enough to know that it wouldn't have been a good ongoing situation with that particular person. He didn't even stay very long. He
got into a conflict. That was another sign with another tenant that was there, and then decided to leave like literally like a few days later, wasn't it?
Yeah. So listen to your gut / get management if it suits you better.
Yeah. We've
heard of other people having very interesting stories. I think especially in the serviced accommodation realm, where I saw another podcast. I think it was on a podcast. No, it was just another post, and somebody else. Like, serviced accommodation also comes with the risk of sex workers operating a brothel in your accommodation, and there were signs that this activity was occurring. That's quite I bet it's quite memorable experience to encounter and try and figure out how to manage.
There's so many stories, yeah, especially service accommodation, because I guess, and so they're coming in and out.
Yeah.
You don't know what their business is.
No. But if you've got an interesting story that you want to share, please let us know. Send us a DM on Instagram.
We would love to hear your stories.
They're so wild sometimes. It's quite funny. I really don't want this to put anyone off. Like I say, we've had I would say like 95% of the time it's been amazing experiences with amazing guests and tenants.
But even more amazing experience when someone else manages your properties.
Yeah, because it's less. Well, we hope those stories have been some source of entertainment for you today. Have you got any of your own crazy tenant or guest stories? Please let us know. We'd love to hear. Send them to us in a DM on Instagram at Honest Property Sisters. That's the best way to reach us. We would so love to hear what they are and share them, because they're all very unique experiences, aren't they? And keeps life a little bit entertaining and keeps you on your toes. But yeah, I don't want this to put you off of having tenants or guests. It's all
part of the journey.
It's part of the journey, and it's, for the most part, I would say more than 90% of the time, we have amazing experiences with our tenants and our guests, especially having management as the middleman nowadays. But we've loved a lot of we really value our tenants and guests and really appreciate. If it wasn't for them, then we wouldn't have
functioning asset.
A functioning asset like we do now.
Asset,
That's the whole point. We're serving them. So, and they are humans in all of their colourful experiences. So just a heads up that you are providing a roof over the heads of people, and people are different and exciting and unique.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Give us a follow on what platform you're listening to this podcast on. It really encourages us to create more episodes like this. If you have anything regarding property or business entrepreneurship that you'd like to ask us, that you'd like us to create for you, send us a DM at Honest Property Sisters on Instagram. That's the best place to reach us. And
let us know what you'd like to hear about.
Yep, and we really look forward to seeing you in the next podcast.
Bye.
Bye-bye.